Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Copper, and you have signed into We Are Triathletes webinar series. And I'm so psyched because today we're going to be speaking with a representative from ZWIFT. His name is Jacob Frazier, and he's going to talk all about ZWIFT and, just give us the ins and outs on it. And I have a ton of questions. I'm hoping you guys have a ton of questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jacob.
Hi, Hillary. Thanks so much for having us over. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So Jacob, just give me some information about you. How did you get to ZWIFT? What is ZWIFT?
Yeah. I think the second half of that question is much more interesting than the first half. I'm the head of our brand experience team. So anytime we take the product into real life, I manage the consumer experience with it and then work with our internal teams to give feedback from the consumer back to the people who build the game, essentially. So I'm the communication between the 200 or so employees that we have internally and the hundreds of thousands of subscribers we have externally. I come from the bike shop and the triathlon background, and that gives me some consumer insight that was really valuable when I first started, but then manufacturing our real life events. And again, that consumer experience is where I've really excelled in the last few years. But for anybody who's not super familiar with ZWIFT, we're a massive multiplayer online training platform. And what that allows us to do is take indoor training first on the cycle side, but more recently on the running side, and in the future in some other aspects as well. But we've made indoor training a lot more immersive and a lot more fun. So the screen you see behind me now is actually just gameplay rolling here in our London office that I'm in today. And everybody you see on screen is a real life athlete somewhere in the world putting out real life power. On the cycle side, that means taking your bike and hooking it up to an indoor trainer and then running our platform on either a PC, a Mac, or any Apple product currently in production. On the running side, what that means is taking usually an iPad or an iPhone, and now we have Apple TV and Android out as well, and then having a run pod connected to your shoes that a lot of athletes use to track outdoor runs. And then once you run on the treadmill, again, that information is transmitted into our application just over the Bluetooth signal, and you can propel your virtual avatar through our virtual world. It allows you to interact with other runners and riders around the globe. We have over 300 group activities every day. On the run side, that means if you wanted to get a quick 5K workout in, you could do it on your own and run through one of our many, many virtual paths in the game, or you can join into a group activity and run with hundreds of runners around the world. That's what we were demonstrating out in Austin when you saw us at the running event. It allows groups of runners to come together when they may not physically be together. It also adds a little bit of structure to your indoor training. We have hundreds of group workouts or structured workouts already built into the game. And then if you're a coached athlete or a member of a group, you could link your ZWIFT account to anything like Training Peaks, Garmin Connect, Strava, things like that, and store all of your information in the same place. So that's a little bit about what ZWIFT is. There's hundreds and hundreds of questions out there, so I'm happy to answer as many as we can come up with, but that's kind of the general feel of what we do here.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the running because that's the newest feature. Do you need to do an FTP test? I mean, is there such a thing as an FTP test or something that gives you a basis of your speed and your cadence? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. On the cycle side, everything's based off of watts per kilogram or basically power versus weight ratio. On the running side, we stick to the traditional outdoor run model of just pace splits. So when you log into ZWIFT for the first time, and it is worth mentioning that running is currently in what we call free access mode. So if you wanted to cycle on the platform, right now that's $15 US a month. It's a month-to-month subscription. There's no annual contracts or anything like that. After last week's announcement from Netflix, we're actually cheaper than they are. So you can work out for less money than it takes to watch movies online, which is a nice feature for us. But the running side launched last February. We're coming up on just about a year officially. And it's in free access. So you can create an account totally free. We don't even ask for a credit card upfront at all. What you need to do then is when you create your user profile, everything from the customization of your avatar, what kind of hair do they have, what shirt do they wear, things like that. We'll also ask you to input some running splits, your basic 1, 5, and then if you have a half or full marathon split as well. If you don't know that information, or maybe it's been a while since you did a threshold test like that, you could just begin running on the platform, and our computer is smart enough essentially to guess for you. And then every time you run, if you suddenly set a new best mile, we'll automatically upload that into your profile. And that only matters if you then do a workout. So like I said, we've had a library of workouts built by world-renowned coaches. You as an athlete could also import your own workouts, either from the coach that you have outside of Zwift, or if you wanted to build your own workout, you could do that as well. And that's all going to be based, again, on that 1, 3, or 5 mile threshold test. And if you don't know that number, you're more than welcome to just go give it a try on Zwift, or enter it from an outdoor run. Or like I said, the algorithm in the game will start to figure it out for you as you start running on the platform.
Interesting. Now, I think that I'm sure that some of you guys out there have the same question. Where are you guys located? I don't know why, but when I signed up for Zwift, I thought you guys were in London. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're actually an American-based company. So our world headquarters sits in Long Beach, California, just south of Los Angeles. And the creator of the game was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and then moved to Orange County, California. So we've been an American product from the very beginning, but we've quickly become a global company. So in the last 4.5 years of business, first in beta and now in public access, what we've seen is a rapid expansion of the product globally, and we as a company have had to adjust accordingly to help support those communities as best we can. So we currently have offices in New York, London, Tokyo, Rio de Janeiro, Melbourne, Australia, and now I'm forgetting one because I rattled them off too fast. Let's go with those ones just to start, but Long Beach is our headquarters. A lot of our back-end system sits down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then London has a huge base, and we have territory managers all over the world as well. So countries like Taiwan, Germany, Japan, those emerging markets, as we like to call them, have individual territory managers spread all over the world. Amazing.
It's just so cool. How do you guys determine where we're going to ride every day? I feel like every time I log on, I'm somewhere else.
Yeah, the virtual world choice that we like to call it is let's say a hot topic of conversation right now. So we'll never be a platform that mirrors outdoor running or riding. So there's a lot of other products out there where, let's say, for example, you were running the Boston Marathon. Somebody has gone out and filmed that marathon course and you could play that video back, but we're a virtual playground. So we built it from scratch. Our main world is a fictitious place called Watopia. It's actually a real life island in Southeast Pacific, but you're not legally allowed to go there. It's uninhabited. But that gives us our GPS points for Strava. So anything that you do on the platform can be uploaded to Strava as well. And then we have 4 other what we like to call virtual reality worlds. It's not virtual reality like goggles and all of that, but it's a real place that we've had a bit of fun with. So we have London, United Kingdom, Richmond, Virginia, Innsbruck, Austria, and then we just recently launched a course in New York City. It's the Central Park course, but it's set 100 years in the future. So you'll see glass roads on the 2nd story, flying cars, all that stuff. We like to base our worlds in reality, but then have a little bit of fun with it. And we'll continue to do that. We continue to add worlds. In the very near future, what you're going to see is a feature we call Guest World, where every day Watopia is the home arena, let's call it, or level. And Watopia is by far our biggest world because it's entirely fictitious, so we can have a bit more fun with it. For example, we have pathways under the water where you can run next to manta rays swimming in the ocean. We also go through a volcano or up a mountain or through a jungle, Aztec ruins, all sorts of things. But then we'll continue to feature those guest worlds as well. We'll never have, like I said, that 1-to-1 ratio, but for most people, you can find somewhere that's pretty close to what you see in real life somewhere in Zwift as well.
It's so cool. So talk to us a little bit about some of these structured workouts that you have on Zwift, like Emily's
Emily's short. Yeah. Ironically, Emily's also my boss, so I'm very familiar with that workout.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, exactly. I better know the answer to this question if she's listening. what we did on the cycling side is we realized very quickly that indoor training is most difficult without structure. So what we call free ride or free run is where you spawn into the virtual world and just start going in any direction. On the cycling side, it's easy because as the gradient of the game changes, your smart trainer will adjust accordingly. So there's some sort of immersion to it. On the running side, we won't have treadmill control right away. Obviously, there's a number of safety concerns if I suddenly started ramping your treadmill up and picking up the speed. We want to continue to allow the consumer to control the treadmill. But what we found is the more structure you can add or the more kind of messaging you can add, the more immersive the experience becomes. So we went ahead and just built a library of workouts. I think on the run side, it's still obviously a little new since we're new to running just within the last year. But every 2 weeks or so, we push out an update to the game, and that will include some new level of workout. And you're always welcome to build your own workout, or like I said, if you have a coach and you're on Training Peaks or any of the third-party platforms, you can upload your workouts as well from that platform into ours. And it just allows the user a little bit more structure in their effort. So they see on screen that we're encouraging you to adjust treadmill speed, or maybe we're encouraging you to match a certain cadence, obviously towards a goal of some sort as to what that workout is built for. But it allows the consumer a little bit more interaction with the platform, something to do essentially, rather than stare at our beautifully designed world. There's another aspect to it, and that's effort-based.
Yeah, I think on Emily's, or there was another one I did yesterday, which was super, super hard. The computer's saying to me, "You've got this. You got this," and I'm cursing the computer out. You know?
Yeah, there is that aspect to it as well. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but even from a staffing perspective, I mean, you walk around our office in Long Beach, and our head of business development is a 3-time world champion in track cycling and a 2-time Olympian. One of our game developers was a former professional triathlete, raced at the very top level, was nationally ranked for a long time. So we have a lot of expertise. We have a guy who still holds an NCAA record for the 1-mile track run. So we have a lot of athletes on staff as well. And they build these workouts, and then the rest of us go do them and think, oh man, I'm going to swing by his or her desk on the way back and yell at him for that one.
Absolutely. I want to yell at them now.
Yeah. We have a workout on the cycle side called the ringer, and the goal of that workout is to not finish. Yeah. The idea behind that workout is you cannot finish it. So you feel better when you quit, but it hurts the whole way.
Oh my God, I did that twice. I thought I was going to die. That 30 seconds that for me was 220 watts, I was like dying. I was like, oh, when is this going to be over?
We all know that feeling for sure.
So talk to me about how to get faster, how to get faster on running, how to get faster on cycling. Does Zwift really do that for you?
Yeah, it's funny. We're never, and I think it's worth mentioning this, and I'll repeat it a few times throughout the questions here as well. We're never working to replace outdoor activities. That's never going to be our intention as a company. What we're constantly trying to do is supplement your outdoor activities. So again, we're a Southern California-based company. I think it drops below 70 degrees like 3 days out of the year there. It rained last Tuesday and everybody panicked. We are a cold weather platform, but more importantly, we're a time constraint platform. So what we like to say is, from a customer proposition, if your choice is to either work out today or not work out, something's going to come up to make that decision for you, whether the kids are up late and you can't get outside while the sun's still up, or the weather's terrible, or you had a last minute work phone call. As your schedule gets constrained, Zwift can solve that problem for you. So I think just by being on any sort of fitness regime and then adding Zwift in, maybe you go from your Saturday outdoor run and your Tuesday night track workout, and now you have a Wednesday indoor run. You've added another component. You're obviously, through structure, going to get faster and fitter. Personally, I don't work for speed anymore. I work out just for fun. I'm here for the fitness aspect of things. And myself, I'm a good example. I travel quite often for the company. I don't bring my bike with me everywhere that I go, but any hotel I'm in has a treadmill. I use our Zwift Run Pod, which you can buy on Zwift.com or Amazon for $30 now. I bring my iPad with me, and boom, I have a workout in. Obviously, I have a little bit more motivation to use the product because I like to be familiar with it every time we push an update out. But that's a good example of, if I didn't have Zwift, if I was in a new city or the weather was really bad like it is today in London, I'm not going to go for an outdoor run today. But when I get back to my hotel tonight, I'll have the opportunity to run on Zwift. So I certainly think that from a fitness perspective, we can fill the void between yes, I'm going to go outside today, or I don't have the time, or the weather's bad, or I just can't make it. We can fit in between those two options.
Absolutely. And do you recommend a certain amount of workouts per week, for cycling and for running?
Yeah, that's definitely a question for a coach, which I am not. Even on the coached athlete side, I'm not the ideal candidate either. What we see, I can tell you this, from a user perspective, most of our users run between 2 and 3 times a week on the platform, and most of our riders go between 3 and 4. Obviously, there's exceptions on both sides of that average, hence why it's an average. But that's what we see from a user-based perspective. So if that's any indication, I'd say 2 runs a week. If you're thinking of, I'm on a running plan, maybe I have 4 runs to do this week, I can incorporate one of those onto Zwift. Or if the weather is really terrible, I'll do 2 of them on Zwift. You very quickly get to that 2 to 3 runs per week average.
Talk to me a little bit about how these points work, the gaming aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a game. That's what we always like to remind people. We call ourselves the fitness company born from gaming. So we were originally designed by John Mayfield, who's a video game programmer professionally. He has been for decades. And he had his second kid. He was an avid cyclist and found training outdoors to be more and more difficult as his kids were growing up. So he developed the platform for himself, really. And then 3 of our co-founders approached him to turn it into a business. And what John has always maintained is that we're a game at heart. So you see fun aspects throughout the virtual world. Like I said, the manta rays in the water. We have a blimp that constantly flies through the air. And part of that gamification is levels. So every kilometer or mile that you run on the platform, you get experience points or XP. And anybody who uses video games is familiar with that concept. It's pretty common throughout the multiplayer gaming world. But every time you accrue XP, it tallies itself up into levels. And every time that you level up, currently I'm running, we have 25 levels available. You unlock new goods. So on the run side, it's new shoes. We have a number of New Balance, Under Armour, and custom-made shoes in the game. You can unlock new singlets to customize your avatar, things like that. It is worth mentioning that we currently have no plans to be a micro-transaction platform, so you can't buy those points with real-life money. You have to earn them. So if you want that new pair of shoes, you got to get on the platform and run to earn the experience points to unlock those shoes. We also have what we call power-ups, which when you come through some of our start-finish banners, you'll kind of go through a random lottery of rewards for that. And those range anywhere from your avatar will become super lightweight. So at that point, you with the same speed, go much faster. You can get more experience points through there. If you're running behind somebody, we also have an arrow power up, which means that you go a little bit faster because you're behind that other user. And again, that's the gamification of it. And I think you'll see a huge expansion of those features in the future. While we take training very, very seriously, and you can see that on the world tour side of cycling, just this last week, Gwen Jorgensen, for example, got onto the platform. So we have the best of the best on the platform. But for the rest of us, it's just a lot more fun if it has that gamification aspect to it. And it allows you to interact with both the other users and the platform directly in a more fun way.
Interesting. So can anybody use this for cycling? I mean, you said pretty much for running, you need the running pod. Do you need a smart trainer in order to use this? And also, do you need a computer or can you use your iPhone?
Yeah, so anybody can use it. That's the flat out answer. And the simplest way to describe it, we understand that the consumer journey is a little complex at the moment, and we're working internally to rectify that. But it's a basic 3-item input. So you need something that transmits, in running's case, speed, in cycling's case, speed and or cadence. So for a lot of people on the cycling side, maybe they have that old trainer in the basement that has been there for 5 or 6 years. If you hook your bike up, you need a speed cadence or a power sensor, and you're on the platform. So you need, again, in running's case, it's a pair of shoes, or on the cycling side, it's a bike. And then you need some sort of sensor. So again, a foot pod for running, or a speed cadence or power sensor on the bike. And then you need a device to run the game. Again, we have the Android platform, and then we have any current Apple product. So Apple TV is the lowest cost. It's $180 US, and you can run the platform on that. but how many of us have an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook or a PC laptop? All of those things are capable of running Zwift as well. I think the last test we did, if you have a PC built within the last 10 years, it will run our platform. So we like to keep it a really low barrier to entry. So you need a device to transmit signal, you need something to run the game, and then you need yourself and a pair of running shoes, and that's it to start running or riding on Zwift.
Awesome. All right, now I'm going to open it up to you guys. So I'm going to unmute you all, and you know, let me know if anybody has any questions. And questions. It sounds like maybe I should do this. Maybe, why don't you write in the box if you have a question? Okay.
Yeah, and just on that last question as well, it's worth mentioning that a smart trainer would make it much more immersive. So a classic trainer wouldn't have the input of the game being received by the trainer, so the uphills wouldn't change any difficulty, the downhills wouldn't become any easier, things like that. On the running side, we, like I said, currently don't have that on the treadmill side of things, so you truly just do need a foot pod to run on the platform. But on the cycle side, you do have that decision to make between a classic trainer or a smart trainer.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Okay.
Hi, Hillary. Hi, Jacob.
Hi.
So I actually tried the free 7-day trial of Zwift, and I could not figure out if I was just dumb or what I was missing. But I got everything set up. It was working fine. And for 7 days, I basically felt like I was on there just getting passed over and over and over. And I thought, what is fun about this? So let me try to put that question in a more positive light. Is there anyone where maybe Zwift isn't the right direction for them to go pursue in ways to try to improve? Or is it just that if, say, I'm a person who's not so much into gamifying, that there's a specific part of Zwift that would appeal to me, for example, just riding alone?
Sure. That's a great question. And I can promise you that you're not dumb. That is not the answer to your question. Were you cycling or were you running on the platform?
I was cycling, because if I'm running outside.
Sure. Fair point. On the cycle side, the entire game is based on watts per kilo. So a lot of times if your weight isn't totally accurate in the game, your avatar will slow down pretty drastically, and that makes it difficult. But to answer your question more bluntly, I think we're comfortable as a company to say that maybe we aren't for everybody. On the cycling side, there's a lot more to do currently just because it's been around for a lot longer. So you'll see tons and tons of group activities on the platform, which is my favorite way to engage with it. And a good example of that is our group workout feature. So what that entails is the workout is built to everybody's FTP, or functional threshold of power. So let's say, for example, I'm 6'8" and I weigh 220 pounds. My FTP is about 360 watts. My boss, Emily, who made Emily's short mix, is about 5'4", maybe 110 pounds. Her FTP sits somewhere around 200 watts. So if we went outside riding right next to each other, I'd be significantly faster than she would be on the flats. She'd have to put out a lot more energy to keep up. But what we do on the game is on the group workout feature, the workout is built to each person's effort. So I'm not working any harder than Emily is. My power output is higher because my FTP is, but we've virtually kind of rubber banded all of the cyclists together. So that brings the community feel to it. You can interact with the other users on the platform, send messages back and forth, give the virtual ride on, which is that big blue thumb that drops out of the sky. But I don't have to work any harder than I should be to keep up with other cyclists. So it can be, especially at the beginning, when you get into what we call that free ride mode, where you just spawn on the side of the road and start riding, and people are just zooming by you, and they've been doing it for, you know, thousands and thousands of kilometers. That's a bit intimidating for everybody. So I would encourage you to check out some of the group activities. The workout is the way I engage with the platform. Outside of the group activities, the workout feature is really the only other way I do it. And yeah, you could, in theory, disconnect your computer from the internet and everybody disappears if you didn't want to do it with the other people.
Well, there's a way to do that, just the solo rides, right?
Yeah. And then you wouldn't be kind of tied to anybody else on the platform. And there's always going to be, I mean, real life riding is a good example as well, right? You'll be faster than some and some will be faster than you. But on the platform, those group activities are a great way to have that community feeling and a little bit of that interaction while ignoring the gamification side of things. And to be, again, very, very blunt, I'm not a big video game fan myself. I don't use the power-ups, and I don't much care about our experience points. I'm not unlocking anything that I'm really pursuing. I ride in the Zwift jersey in game, for example. But to have the other people there, to have that sense of accountability, it makes my rides just a little bit longer. Maybe I would have quit at 45 minutes and now I'm going to go for an hour because the guy I'm riding with is my friend from Chicago, for example, and I just want to finish that activity with him. So I know that as a consumer first, I consumed the product before I worked for the company. That first, especially 7 days, can be a little intimidating to try and get your head wrapped around all the questions in just 7 days before you start paying for the platform. But I promise that there's kind of what we're trying to do is build an avenue for everybody to engage with the platform in their own way.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions from the group. This is from Chris. He says, are there any plans in the near future to allow clubs or teams to create their own cycling kits?
Yeah, Chris, that's a great question. Currently, we just launched a feature called Meetups, which is a way to invite your friends to not a private, but a scheduled ride or run. So you can say to your 2 or 3 or 4, up to 50 of your friends, hey, come and run with me on Zwift at 7 a.m. Central Time. We'll spawn all of your avatars right next to one another, and then off you go into the event. That's our step towards clubs. And this is a public-facing line, so I'm comfortable saying it. Club feature is something we're working on. Logistically, there's a lot to lift there, because once we open up clubs, it's not going to be Chris's club and my club. It's going to be hundreds of clubs around the world trying to do the same thing at the same time. So we're working out some of the kinks. It's a very heavy lift, again, from the technological side of things, but it is coming. And to your question about Cycling Kit, the game is a cloud-based platform, so you need an internet connection to run the platform. That's how you see all the other avatars, and that's how they see you. What that also entails is that you have to download the product. So any jersey that we put in game, any new tree that we put on the side of the road, any graphic that you see has a memory cost to it. So we're working really, really hard internally to shrink that cost of memory to download Zwift, but we still want to keep it accessible to people, like I said, on product that is maybe 10 years old sometimes. We had a guy with an iPhone 4 in the office the other day, and he could still run Zwift. I had no idea how his phone was even working, but Zwift still worked on it. So for a lot of our programmers, for example, they come from the massive multiplayer games on Xbox or PlayStation, and they're used to building a product that only runs on the very top end machines. We're trying to still keep it consumer friendly. We don't want Zwift to require a brand new computer every year or 2 years. So that memory cost is something that the team is working really, really hard to rectify. I'm comfortable saying that at some point we'll allow people to design their own kit. I've seen a working model in the game of the very traditional, or should I say the very basic, like drag and drop design aspect. Like imagine if you went to print a t-shirt online, you know, insert your logo here on this t-shirt type of thing. And again, that will come, but we want to make sure that when it does come, it doesn't crash people's computers or cause a massive memory failure. So we're making sure when we release new product features that it's not going to kick a bunch of people off the platform essentially. But it is coming, Chris. Long answer to your short question. It's in the works, I promise.
Awesome. And I also have a couple of questions from Noah. He said, for Zwift running, how does it control the treadmill? Does it feel the same as if I'm on the Wahoo Snap?
Yeah, so the Wahoo Snap is a really great option on the smart trainer world, and the answer is no, it won't feel the same as your Wahoo Snap. Currently, Zwift does not control the treadmill. The only treadmill in the world that has that ability is called the Tax Magnum, and it's sold only in the Nordics and in Northern Europe. And that has two-way communication with the platform and the treadmill, so we can essentially raise the elevation or increase the belt speed. But most treadmill manufacturers don't have that built in. You see the same thing 3 years ago in cycling. Smart trainers were pretty much a brand new thing. Who knows what the next 3 years in running we'll see. I can tell you that our business development team is constantly having conversations with hardware manufacturers, so it may come in time. I do know that US consumer laws are a little bit difficult around controlling treadmills virtually. So currently, no, we have no control over the treadmill. We just put prompts on the screen that says, pick up the speed, raise the elevation, decrease the speed, so on and so forth, but there won't be any control of it at the moment.
He also wanted to know, he says, tell us more about ZWIFT Academy Tri-Team. He says he has a nonprofit youth triathlon team, Lightning Warriors. What are some of the programs that ZWIFT can support the growth of youth and juniors triathlon? And what's the best way not, oh, and then he's got another question. What's the best way not to get dropped on a ZWIFT ride when he's on the ride?
Sure. And I pulled open the chat, so I'll be able to read these as well.
Okay.
A couple of good questions, Noah. The ZWIFT Academy Tri-Team is an initiative we launched last year as a talent identification program in the sport of triathlon. We're currently at the end of our third year on the cycling side. And what we found, the platform is a data-rich environment. So a cyclist that maybe couldn't move to Spain and start racing professionally, they could race on ZWIFT, and pro teams have come to us to ID the next generation of young riders. And it's worked really, really well. We thought we'd bring that same principle over to triathlon. So last year was our first foray into the triathlon space. Obviously, with running being launched last year, we had the ability to do 2 of the 3 sports. We built the world's best supported amateur tri-team. So 4 athletes were chosen out of thousands and thousands of applicants. They got world-class support from companies like Specialized on the bike and wind tunnel testing. Wahoo supplied a number of ecosystem components for their indoor riding. Woodway Treadmill stepped in, Cliff Bar Nutrition, Roka Swimwear. All of these fantastic companies came forward to support this tri-team. 3 of the 4 athletes qualified for Kona and raced out in Kona. As we all know, the Big Island can be a little bit treacherous. One of our athletes had a fantastic day. One of our athletes had an okay day, and one of them got herself into a little bit of nutrition trouble and didn't finish. But that's a good example of how the triathlon story is across the board. So we're totally aware that that could happen again this year. What we've done now is we've opened up application again. It ends January 31st. I think you have to be a level 12 rider and a level 3 runner to apply for the academy. But again, they're going to get world-class support in an effort to put somebody on the podium in Kona as an amateur. So that's what the ZWIFT Academy Tri-Team is. Noah, your next question regarding the youth triathlon team, Lightning Warriors. I love that name, by the way. That's a fantastic name. What are some programs that ZWIFT can support the growth of those teams? So that's a hard question to answer right now because that club functionality we talked about isn't built yet. What will come when that club functionality comes out is the ability for teams, especially on the youth side, to interact with one another when they're not together in real life. So for kids, obviously school is a big component, making sure that they're getting the education that they need, but then they want to get their workout in. Maybe they're spread out in a small demographic area or a large geographical swath, but if they jumped on the platform, they'd have that accountability to it. A coach would be able to interact with them and message with them. And then they're also going to get much more structured workouts out of ZWIFT, and their coach will be able to see those efforts. Everything will be a little bit more kind of data rich at that point. And then we do a ton of initiatives with programs. If the club or the team had a lot of traction, then they could start to have maybe a weekly ride supported by our HQ staff as well. And at that point, it can become almost a recruitment tool. More people will see the brand and become engaged with the club. So there's a number of ways to interact with the platform now. But like I said, when that club functionality comes out, it'll be much, much easier to interact in a club setting or a group setting at that point. And then I think his last question there is the best way not to get dropped on a ZWIFT ride when it's not banded together. Again, that group workout functionality, you're rubber banded together. Listen, no, if you figure out how not to get dropped from a ZWIFT group ride, you let me know because I'd like that information as well. We do divide our rides by category level, and each category has a watts per kilo range. So again, we have kind of category A all the way down through E. And some rides have no categories and it's kind of open for everybody, but there's always people, and again, we like to equate this to that outdoor riding. There's always people that are fast and are going to want to go fast. So just let them go. And a group always swarms behind as the normal group, I like to call it. And that's where I'll be riding as well. ZWIFT rides tend to start very, very quickly as well. So the first 5 or 10 minutes have to be kind of near your threshold effort, and then it settles in a little bit for everybody. But everybody in our office has been dropped from a group ride at one point or another, either through accident, maybe there's been a technological lapse and the power dropped on your trainer for just a second, and all of a sudden you're 10 seconds behind the group. But it does take a little bit of gas in the tank to get going right at the beginning, and then that group will kind of naturally form as you pedal or run down the road.
Awesome. I'm laughing because my husband was watching me one day as I was riding. He's like, "Why is everybody going faster than you?" I said, "That's real life."
Yeah, exactly. We have a large workout facility in our office. We call it the lab. It's where we test a lot of the hardware, and then anytime we have a new software feature, we test it internally first, obviously. But it's an added pressure because when you're in there, the people on the screen may be faster than you, and then other employees have walked in to watch you as well. So it becomes a little bit of competition in the office if you're not keeping up.
That's awesome. Any plans for new workouts, or is that something that, you guys put together all the time?
Yeah. Workouts are a feature that we're always adding to. It's one of our newest features. And again, we take the training side very seriously, but our company motto, or rather one of our company mottos, is serious training made fun. So we're constantly adding new workouts, especially on the running side, because it's such a brand new product for us. On the cycle side, we add them, we did the Zwift Academy for cycling again, and another 32 workouts was added at that point. So we're constantly adding new workouts, and again, constantly adding new features as well. So we update the game every 2 weeks, and that allows us to push those new features out to the public. And on the workout side, the custom workout builders in the game, so you could always add your own workouts again, or if a coach scheduled something for you, that would be put in. It's pretty limitless, and now we have cloud storage of the workouts. So if, let's say, at home you have a computer that you Zwift on, you can add the workouts there, and then when you travel, maybe you're on an iPad, it will show up in your account as well. So you can always add more workouts yourself, and we're always adding more as well.
Last question. Final Surge is one of our sponsors. Any plans to link up with them?
We're always working with new partners. That's a better question for our business development team. But given how disruptive we were to the industry just 4 years ago, on the cycling side of things, at first we saw almost an aversion to our product by a lot of the traditional companies. And in those first couple of years, now they're totally on board. So much so that just last week I was in Australia, and we hosted the first ever nationally sanctioned e-criterium race. So people from all over Australia competed virtually, and then 2 days later they were given that national championship jersey, just like the real outdoor rides were given. So everybody is kind of coming around at that point. And on the running side, we're seeing something very, very similar. We're about to launch a tour of Zwift running demos just next week, I think, throughout the United States. We have 5 stops scheduled, I believe, in this first iteration.
Wow.
And as partners come to the table, the business development team is always willing to have that conversation. So I'll give you their email, and you can pass it along to the sponsors, and people who are a lot smarter than me can figure it out.
One last question, I promise. In terms of demographics of the users of the site, are they mostly triathletes, mostly cyclists, mostly runners? Can you just give us a quick breakdown?
Yeah, that's a great question. We just ran a demographic survey not too long ago, and I'm going to stretch my memory a little bit to remember the exact number, so don't hold me to these entirely. Obviously, on the cycling side, we're much deeper in terms of users because we've been around so much longer. We like to say that we've had over 1 million people try the platform. And just last week, for example, if you log into Zwift, you saw over 14,000 concurrent users. So that's 14,000 people around the world using the product at the exact same time, which is pretty impressive. On the run side, obviously, those numbers are significantly lower just because it's only a year old at this point. I've seen over 1,000 runners on the platform at the same time before. And our subscriber number is significantly less. I don't even know that number. It fluctuates each and every day. But we're constantly growing in a lot of different directions, which is really exciting. But at the same time, we have to pursue certain avenues. The triathlon market is a huge market for us now that we have both sports on the platform. I think, and again, I hope my boss isn't listening in case I'm wrong on this. I think by the last survey we did, we had something like 40% of our users self-identified as triathletes, which is a huge percentage, obviously. The number of users that are raw cyclists is hard to identify because obviously we would count those triathletes as cyclists as well. or maybe it's a cyclist who just got into triathlon. So the majority of the platform is cyclists. Runners are pretty low right now just because it is a brand new product. And I think all of us in this chat today can agree that identifying as a runner is a little bit different. You know, if you're a cyclist, a lot of times, once you've bought the bike and the kit and the helmet and all of these things, I'm a cyclist full on. But if you're a runner, just because you bought a pair of running shoes and you did a 5K, maybe you self-identify as somebody who runs rather than as a runner. So we're trying to change that vocabulary kind of within the community as well. Everybody who straps on a pair of running shoes is a runner, whether you do it once, twice, 3 times a week, you run a marathon, or maybe you're just training for a 5K. Those are all runners in our eyes. And as that demographic grows, we'll continue to pursue different avenues in engaging them, whether it's through group runs, or we just launched our first ever race series on the running side. So now I think it's every Saturday we have a virtual race as well, both at the 5 and the 10K distance. And then I believe it's at the beginning of February, we're gonna host our first ever virtual half marathon. So you'll have a training program that's been leading into that, and then we'll have a mass participation half marathon at the start of February. So you'll see already just within 1 year, we've created a lot of ways to engage the different demographics.
I am so impressed. I'm sure everybody else on this call is, and I'm sure once this gets out to the rest of the group, everybody will agree with me. This was a fantastic webinar. Thank you so much, Jacob. I really appreciate all of your time, you know, explaining everything to us, and just keep us posted on new developments. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, Hillary. Thanks so much for having me. For anybody on the call or anybody who gets it, my personal email is jacob@zwift.com. Feel free to shoot me an email anywhere along the way. If you have any trouble with it, I'd encourage you to check out zwift.com. We have a lot of great blog and tutorials on the platform as well. And a simple YouTube search will find millions and millions of videos of how to run or ride on the platform, users' favorite features, all sorts of things. There's Facebook groups out there. I promise the information is out there. It's just a little bit difficult to grab sometimes. So I'm happy to do this. If we ever want to do one again, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I look forward to seeing everybody out on the virtual roads of Zwift.
Thanks so much. And signing out from We Are Triathletes. Thanks again. Bye-bye.